Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited for this conversation today. This sister doc right here is someone that we've been in each other's circles for a bit. We're in the same mentorship community. She is an amazing physician who works with physician moms, and I am so excited. We're going to be talking today about self prioritization, especially if you are a professional mom, even especially if you're a leader in the workplace, which we're all leaders, but sometimes there are levels of leaders, hats that we wear. And I was literally just talking to someone earlier about putting your oxygen mask on first. So I'm here to welcome Dr. Latoya Luces-Sampson, the owner of Dr. Toya Coaching. She coaches professional, but particularly physician moms who are postpartum and beyond. This is such an important conversation, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. Dr. Latoya, hey, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And I laughed because that is like my favorite cliche that I love to tell people about the oxygen mask. So yes.
Yes. Well, I love to start by having the audience get to know
Mhm.
you, get to know who you are, and how did you come to as a especially as a physician,
Yeah.
to decide to coach physician moms around professional self-prioritization and self-care?
Yeah. So I originally from Trinidad and Tobago. I came for undergrad at Howard University, the Mecca, the best HBCU in the land. So I was at Howard for undergrad and medical school. I did a 6-year BSMD program and I trained in OBGYN at Pennsylvania Hospital in Philly. And then I came out to California, which is where I currently am, and met my husband, had my kids, and I'm currently practicing and living here. And I came to this work through my own personal experience, like many entrepreneurs who's like, oh, well, I have this issue. Let me help other people with it.
Mhm.
So I've been an OBGYN for a decade or so, helping women in postpartum and through these early stages. But it's always different when you have your own kids, right? So with
Mhm.
my first, I was fully employed then, but I was just in survival mode. I
Mhm.
was burnt out professionally, but because I knew I had to be there, I had to do it. It was COVID, so we were alone. But I didn't perceive that it was that difficult because I was in survival mode, like most of
Mhm.
us are. But with the second baby, I was doing my entrepreneurial thing. I had left my full-time employment. I was doing independent contracting for my clinical job and started doing speaking and advocacy work surrounding Black maternal health, like doing all of these things that I was very passionate about when I was pregnant. It was a very rough pregnancy, like pain wise, thankfully uncomplicated. And
Mhm.
then when I had her, the pain just continued.
Mhm.
But in my mind, I was like, this is my second baby. I got this. Like, everything's going
Mhm.
to be fine. I'm
Mhm.
an OB. I've done this
Mhm.
before. I'm not fully employed, so I can control my schedule. So I'm just going to jump right back into it. Can you
Mhm.
believe I was at a in-person speaking event 6 weeks postpartum?
Mhm.
Why was I doing that? Who knows?
Wow.
But in my mind, I was going to just get back to normal.
Mhm.
But inside, I was very angry. I was very
Mhm.
resentful, and I
Mhm.
was in a lot of actual physical pain because
Yeah.
of the pregnancy and everything. And the
Mhm.
anger and resentment came from the fact that I felt the people around me were not treating me like the queen that I was.
Mhm.
Like, I did not just have this huge thing happen to me, like they couldn't
Mhm.
see that I was suffering,
Yeah.
even though in reality I was acting like everything was fine, right? I
Mhm.
had gone back to everything. I wasn't saying how I
Right.
was feeling, but I
Yeah.
was, having this invisible scorecard against everyone
Yeah.
that, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do this.
Yeah.
And it was like, you can see how I'm struggling. Why aren't you helping me the way that I deserve to be helped?
Right.
So that continued until I basically crashed and burned
Mm.
and told my husband, I need a break. I am going to go away on a trip by myself and I'm going to
Mhm.
leave you all here.
Mhm.
You got it. And as you can imagine, that did not go over well. He was like completely blindsided, like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. So we ended up taking that trip together without the kids. My sister
Mhm.
came all the way from Trinidad to help my
Mhm.
mom, who was here at the
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
We went, and just to give you some context, I was back into everything. I had a webinar presentation like a week after with like the California, like with the CMQCC, is like a quality organization
Mhm.
for OBGYN in California. So this
Mhm.
wasn't just like a by the way kind of thing. And I had just had to tell them I can't do it, you know? So it was that bad, right?
Yeah.
As a professional, like that's not something I would cancel lightly.
Yeah.
So we went on that trip and really just reconnected. I really had to figure out what was important in this
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And it was me. And I was not acting that way.
Mhm.
I was focusing on what everybody else should have been doing
Mhm.
to take care of me without
Mhm.
actually telling them.
Mhm.
And I also was not setting a good example for them. So, how were they even supposed to know? So I had to come back and really just focus on what was important. I
Mhm.
kind of dropped off the face of the earth, was not doing any of my advocacy, no social media, nothing. Just
Mhm.
focusing on recovering both physically and mentally and slowly getting back into quote unquote regular life postpartum.
Mhm.
It's as I came out of that, ever the physician wanting to help people, I was like, I don't want other people to have to go through this.
Yeah.
And there's a certain level of challenges that professional moms have to deal with on top
Mhm.
of everything else that moms have to deal with, and
Absolutely.
then physician moms on top of that. So I really focus there to help my counterparts just not have to go through what I went through and to
Mhm.
make it easier, right? There's this idea that we have to struggle through
Mhm.
this part of motherhood. It's like,
Mhm.
why? Like nobody wins the struggle Olympics, right? It's not a thing that we're trying to achieve. So
Mhm.
that's how I came to launch Dr. Toya Coaching, and I have loved every minute of it. Just
Mm.
seeing the light bulbs go off, seeing the transformation that my clients have been able to make, and it's really just setting the foundation for motherhood ahead.
Yeah.
Because when you set that example,
Mhm.
when kids are the most needy,
That's right.
like they are going to know,
Mhm.
okay, well, later on, this mommy has her alone time. This is what mom does. And
Mhm.
then when they become adults, this is what moms do.
Right.
They take care of themselves, right?
That's
My son is going to know his wife, if he chooses to have a wife, is going to take time and take care of herself. So it is very important to me on many different levels.
I think that you, even just in your story, you dropped some gems. You dropped some gems. And I think one of the most important things is recognizing that in that moment where you had to cancel the talk, like
Mhm.
you chose you. But you chose you out of the necessity of choosing you,
Right.
right? And what I hear is now is like what you're doing is helping physician moms do that before they get to that point.
Yeah.
And like your story doesn't, even though it for people who are maybe not in medicine, it may seem like, what? It's not that uncommon in our
It really
community.
isn't.
It really isn't. I'll share a quick story. When I was in residency, I had knee surgery on a
Mm.
Monday afternoon to have my meniscus repaired. I was
Ooh.
on call Wednesday. I did
Mhm.
no PT, no physical therapy,
Wow.
because I couldn't get coverage, right?
Mm.
And so it's a condition or a conditioning that happens within our community. And I know there are similar types of things that happen in the non-medical corporate community as well. And I think our community is sort of special because there's extra stigma that's
Yeah.
tacked on to needing help or needing to take time off or needing to do self-care. And we're just now coming into the point where it's acceptable. But when you're a woman and when you're a mom, and don't let you be a woman and a mom and in a marginalized community,
Right.
then you got a little extra splaining to do.
Yes. And I like what you said about the conditioning because that's exactly what it is,
Mhm,
right? We are taught, we are conditioned to
mhm,
give of ourselves completely
mhm,
as just moms,
mhm,
right? In this society, in the United States, we are taught to give of ourselves completely. It is
mhm,
expected, and if you don't do it, people will call you a bad mom. Then you
mhm.
add on the professional title. You have the extra expectations. You don't want the people around you to be convinced of their preconceived notions that women shouldn't be in these high powered situations because, of
Yeah.
course, she has to deal with her kid. This is why it should be a
Mhm,
man. You have to deal with people thinking that, and
mhm,
you also having to disprove that. So your own expectations. And then
mhm.
with a physician, you are expected. Like you said, you had knee surgery
Yeah.
and you were on call 2 days later.
Right.
And that's not, nobody would have batted an eye. If you said, no, I can't come in,
Mhm.
they would have been like, well, but why? Like,
Right.
why? Right?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, here's the interesting thing. Not only are we conditioned to ignore our own bodies,
Mm,
but others are conditioned not to help. Because I'll tell you, I did ask. I
yeah,
did ask for coverage, and there were so many no's that came my way.
yeah,
And then my, attendings, and they were like, "Well, you just got to figure it out. You got to get in that." And admittedly, I think those were the days when nobody really cared. Like physician
right,
wellness,
right.
resident wellness wasn't a thing,
That
right?
was definitely not a thing
Right,
back
mid
in
Gen
our
X
day.
over here, right? I came in right as the 80-hour work week rule was being implemented, so that'll give
Right,
you context, right? And so,
right.
yeah, and so it's so important what you do, and in full transparency, Dr. Latoya doesn't know I'm about to share this, but I during the time of this recording, I had to pause our recording, right? Because the conditioning is automatic. Go, go,
Yeah,
go, 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 go. And while I normally don't skip meals, I skipped my lunch and had to pause to go and get some food, right? And so it's something that you have to work at. You have to be
yes,
willing to be intentional about
yes.
prioritizing, about saying yes to yourself. Say yes to the dress, say yes to yourself.
Yes, intentional is the word. It is the word that I use the most often because it is very easy to just let your life happen to you and
Mhm,
to sit in the woe is me, in the confusion, in the overwhelm,
mhm,
and think that there's no way out. But the choices that you make have to be intentional to get yourself out.
mhm,
And when people hear self care or they kind of just tune out because it's become like a buzzword.
yeah.
Like, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
self care. And especially when it's coming from a corporate level, right?
Yes,
The self care is, well, we'll give you a pizza at lunch while you work through your
girl.
lunch, or
Mhm.
it's something usually very superficial.
Yeah.
But I really want people to think of it not as a buzzword, not as just a silly thing, but an
Mhm.
essential part of your life.
Absolutely.
Because if you are not there, and that is physically, mentally, nobody else will be okay. People who are relying on you, your
Mhm.
kids,
Mhm.
your family, they
Mhm.
will they they're not going to have you. And
That's
then when you think about it from a corporate level, because I was in a corporate job before I left
Mhm.
employment, if you're not there, they will move right along.
Girl,
They will
say
just
that.
keep it pushing,
Mhm.
right? The patients will get seen, the meeting
Mhm.
will get attended, the clients
Mhm.
will get served,
That's right.
and you will be left with your broken body and your broken mind,
That's right.
and everybody else has moved on. So this is not just, oh, well, something that's a luxury
Mhm.
or just something that is meaningless. It is essential for you to live the kind of life that you want to
Yeah,
and to just be healthy and be well.
that's right. I love that you said that because I literally just had this conversation with someone earlier today, which is
Mhm,
God forbid something
mhm,
should happen. The organization, will move right along to the next
Mm.
one, right?
Yep.
And so it's so important that we take it back to self-care. And I'd love to talk a little bit about, I think what everybody else thinks is self-care, since it's sort of been um what's the word, popularized or
Yeah. Yeah.
trended, right?
Yeah.
People think, oh, self-care means a spa, or self-care
Yep.
means a massage, or self-care means breathing, or a yoga class, or like you said, a pizza in the break room. Let's nuance that a little bit and
Yes.
talk about, well, what could self-care mean that really makes a difference?
Yeah. So I think it's important to categorize it, right? And to
Mhm,
be realistic,
mhm,
because one thing I think is very easy for people to do is to exceptionalize, right? So you see me, you can find every reason why my situation does not apply to you
mhm,
and why it won't work for you, right? I'm
mhm,
not exceptional. I mean, I
mhm.
am, but not in that way,
Right.
right?
You're not an exception.
So, right. And also, it took me a long time to get here. I went through a lot to get here.
Yeah.
So instead of imagining it as this big thing, like one more task of self care,
Mhm,
starting with baby steps and being very intentional and giving yourself grace and being realistic.
mhm.
So while I do massages every single week, because that's what I need. And it
Yeah,
was started off as a physical thing, like I needed it was recommended by my pelvic floor
yeah,
physical therapist in
yeah,
postpartum
yeah.
and continued,
Mhm,
right, for my continued self care. It is not realistic for everybody to do that. And I think once we who promote these things have to consider that as well
that's
and give
right.
people the baby steps. And especially for me, my clients and my audience are in the thick of it, right? Kids in
Mhm,
diapers,
mhm,
newborns, all of those
mhm,
things. But you can start from the minute the baby leaves your body. You
mhm.
can start, and it looks like taking time alone,
Yes.
as
Ooh.
simple as that. It can
Mhm,
be 5 minutes.
mhm,
If the baby is asleep, go away, sign on the door, do not disturb, and
mhm,
just to be with yourself,
mhm.
be with your thoughts, sleep, rest. It can be as little as that because it is such a high touch time.
Yes.
Everybody needs something from you. Your baby literally needs your body if you
Mhm,
decide to feed human milk from your body. But even not, just the comfort, and it's a helpless little being, right? You are needed by so many people, even as they get older, that just being unquestioned,
mhm,
untouched,
mhm,
just being able to exist for yourself
mhm.
is all people can manage
Yeah,
realistically at
yeah.
times. And it is a good starting point to work yourself up to having massages every week.
I love that because it's the simplicity that sometimes that
Mhm.
makes the difference, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and by the way, the do not disturb sign works whether you have a newborn, whether you have surprisingly a 4-year-old or a nine,
Right,
in my case, a 9-year-old.
right.
If you need 5 minutes or if you need
Mhm.
10 minutes or 15 minutes, we joke about hiding in the bathroom and hiding in the closet, but
Mhm.
that is real stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
going to the bathroom, and of course, the 4-year-old is gonna kick in the bathroom and be like,
Right,
because that's what they do, especially if
right,
they don't have a partner to come and swoop them up and be like,
right,
"Mommy's going to take some, quiet time," right?
right.
And I think it's just so important to, like, think of it in those sort of the micro terms, like the
Mhm.
quiet time, alone
Yeah,
time. Sometimes it's, connect time,
yeah,
grown-up time, as I used to like to call it, grown-up
yes.
time, right? Because
Somebody who could, yeah, just like to hear yourself think or to
yeah,
not think about anything. Like it could be
exactly.
either one of those.
Yeah. And I think what worked for me, just, like as a new mom, or even as a single mom, as my son has sort of grown up, is structuring. There's something in structuring your schedule so that you can get decompression time. And
Yeah,
and when I say structuring, some people don't have the privilege of structuring their work schedule,
yeah,
but, like, maybe the dinner and bedtime, like, when does dinner and bedtime schedule, begin? Because I could
yeah.
tell you that my son would go to bed when he was a baby at 5. And people be like, "How do you get your kids to bed that early?" And of course, I was nursing, so he would wake up and I would nurse
Right,
him.
right,
So,
right.
like, just to that. And now my son is in the bed at 9 years old at 7:45.
Love it.
And that
Yes.
means 8 p.m., because I give him the hugs and kisses, and
Right, right,
it
right.
gives me the space to be able
Yes.
to give him the hugs and the kisses, knowing that at 8 o'clock, my butt is gonna be in some other room, quiet,
Right,
doing what
right.
I need to do to recoup.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you touch on so many things. So having that structure
Mhm.
is very, very important. And there's a people like to call it gentle parenting, but it really isn't. But
Yeah,
this belief that structure equals child abuse. And I don't know why those two things are equated. Like
right.
you can have a schedule, you can have a structure
Mhm.
and not have the baby in a room screaming its head off. Like
Correct.
those two things don't have to go together,
Nothing
right?
is
And having a structure is going to be better for you and the baby,
yes.
right? And the toddler and child. And of course, there are children that have sleep issues, they have
Mhm,
reflux medical issues that make it more difficult. But I
mhm,
feel like a lot of times, especially when you are a professional working outside of the home a lot, there's this extra guilt.
mhm.
So you let things happen more because you feel bad, or you don't want to, well, I'm away so long, I just want snuggles. And true, but then when you get to the point where you are so exhausted, so irritable, so everything, that time that you're spending is actually not quality time.
Right.
So focusing on that structure, and then also asking for the help that you need to
Mhm.
maintain the structure.
Right.
Because like you said, if you're a single mom, if the husband works or travels or whatever,
Mhm.
what are you going to do? What are you going to do to be intentional about getting the help that you need? And whether that is asking
Yes.
family, friends, because I love a good free help, but
Oh,
I
God,
also like
yeah.
paid help
Mhm.
because it can be better sometimes to
Yeah.
have somebody do exactly what you want them to do as
Mhm.
opposed to, a family member or something like that. But all of these things take intention and purpose because you are focusing on yourself being okay first and then everybody else.
Woo, you dropped 2 major, major, major gems. So I'm gonna take it back to the gentle
Mhm.
parenting being equivalated with, uh, like, no boundaries. Like,
Right,
gentle parenting is not boundaryless parenting.
right.
In fact, to not model boundaries for your children is a very dangerous thing
Yeah.
because you're setting them up for codependent relationships
Hmm.
and for what's the word? Entitlement. Right?
Yes.
When there's no boundaries, there can be the
Yeah.
extreme of entitlement, but there can also be codependency. And
Yeah.
and so in terms of like those boundaries, and I often will with my son, I love spending time with my son. I play with him. We
Hmm.
have a great time. And there are some times when I've had like a really hard day and our best conversations tend to be in the car. But when he gets in the car, I say, listen, I've had a really long day. I just need 5 minutes of quiet time. I'll set the
Yeah.
alarm.
I
And
love a
over
good
time,
alarm.
and, girl, I live by the alarm. Are you kidding? Right? And
Yep.
so it's when you're modeling something, because then they're gonna see that and they're gonna pick that up.
Hmm.
And then now
Hmm.
my son will say, "Mommy, I don't feel like talking right now. I just need some quiet time. Say less. Your introverted mom understands." Right? I love a good silent car ride.
I
Right?
can't wait until my son gets there.
Right. Right. The other thing I want to kind of say, because I love that you said, like there's that guilt, like, oh, I'm away so much. I want to spend
Hmm.
time. Our children, and you know this, our children's concept of time is very different from ours. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes with your child who is 2, 4, 6, 9 is like 5 hours to them.
Lifetime.
Right?
Yep.
And so you can say, okay, I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes.
Hmm.
And for them, that's so much time. And then you can give them to the husband or the partner or the let them play by themselves or
Right.
whatever they're going to do,
Yes.
and go and take your 15 minutes and then
Right.
come back. So I think it's useful for parents to understand that. Like, we think, oh, if I'm not spending hours and hours and hours every day with my kid, I'm such a bad parent. No, you're not.
You're not. And I love that you talked about that because the quality of the time is what matters. The
Exactly.
quantity is irrelevant. Of course, if you are always gone, right,
Mhm.
there may be some issues.
Correct.
But if you are, say it again, intentional about
Mhm.
the quality of the time that you spend, the
Mhm.
phone is down, you are fully engaged. And it doesn't even have to be, because I know it happens to me. When I think about entertaining my son, I get like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to make something, I have to
Right.
build a volcano.
Right.
We can roll his cars down the couch and he would, I mean, he's four, so,
Right.
but
Sure.
it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be this thing. It just
Mhm.
has to be dedicated and focus on the both of you, or if you have
Mhm.
multiple children, on all of you. And they will be so excited. They will get what they need from you, and then you can get what you need from yourself.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, that it doesn't have to be this, oh my God, well, I have to set something, I have to have a build a
Mm.
box, we have to do something big. Sometimes my son would just be like, let's cuddle on the couch. And
Oh.
before I took away TV during the weekday, because now
Mhm.
he's of a certain age, we would
Yeah.
like watch one show, like maybe watch a
Yeah.
Daniel Tiger. It's like, let's cuddle on the couch and watch a
Yeah.
an episode of Daniel Tiger. And for him,
Yeah.
that was everything. Now it's like, let's go play a round of Go Fish. And
Yeah.
it's
Nice.
like high touch, high reward. And then
Mhm.
there's the end of the night where it's like, okay, let's get our hug and kiss time in. Let's get our back rub time in. And that's maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but he's satisfied with that. It's the quality. I love that you said that. And and how there's the joke around parents buying toys and then the kids are playing with the boxes. That'll
Right.
give you context for how little
Exactly.
you have to do to
Yeah.
entertain your kids, right? It's
Yeah,
just the
they're easy.
quality
Even
of
a
time.
walk outside, right? And it gets you outside, it gets them outside, gets them nice and tired for bedtime. You
Yes.
know?
We go outside and play frisbee. You'd be surprised. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a boy, so that's what we do, right? So we
Right,
go,
right,
but
right.
like he loves to play some frisbee, or just go outside and play some shoot some hoops.
Yeah.
That's what he likes to do. So not and just to backtrack, I said I have a boy, so I just want to like correct that language. Not that that is a boy thing to do. It's just what
Yeah.
we do. So I want to honor that that
Yeah.
inclusivity
And
there.
thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing you said, and then I'm gonna, we're gonna keep us going, is the asking. Oh my goodness. For
Yeah.
physician moms, for moms in general, for
Mhm.
the Black community, for other
Mhm.
marginalized communities, for the people who live with disabilities, for the LGBTQIA plus community, it is very difficult to ask because we're conditioned not to. We're conditioned
Yes.
to take what you can get, and particularly in medicine,
Mhm.
take what you can get. Be grateful. You're in a service oriented
Mhm.
industry. You're supposed to serve others before you serve yourself. And so, just that you brought into the space, no, ask, ask,
Yes.
and cultivate community. And I think for me, I'm very present to community because I'm a single mom and
Yeah.
I don't have any family living in Atlanta with me. Well, my sister just moved here,
Oh,
so I'll
nice.
correct that. But yeah, but
Yeah.
before, like my mom, she was here for a while, and then she moved to Mexico to live her best life in retirement, which I am,
Love it.
totally for. Yeah, hashtag
Yes.
goals. And so I've had to cultivate mom community. I've had
Yes.
to cultivate family community so that I can
Mhm.
call when I have to travel to a conference to speak and say, you mind keeping my son
Yeah.
overnight? So that I can go and do this and make money for the household and pay my mortgage.
Thanks.
or so I can have a date night, right?
Yeah.
And then reciprocate. Hey, you want the boys to come over so you and your husband can have a date night?
Yeah. I
And
love the reciprocation, and that is so important. The village, right? There's a reason it's a saying, right?
mhm,
That's how it was back in the day,
Yes.
however long in the day you want to think about, in different communities. And really outside of the US, it's still the norm, right?
Yeah.
The way that we care for each other in
Mhm.
motherhood, especially in the early days,
That's
the
right.
community and the village is important. And for professional working women, where you may have traveled for a job opportunity, especially for physicians, where you may have traveled away for training or fellowship or whatever, you may
Mhm.
not be near your family.
Mhm.
So again, I'm a broken record, the intentionality. How are you going to create your village, right?
Yeah.
Because it is very important. And we are conditioned to be lone rangers, figure it out on your own. You take that
Mhm.
exam on your own, you go through residency on your own. Yes, you have your classmates, but a lot of times it's like a competition, you
Mhm.
know, collaboration is not really a thing. And we need to break out of that
Yeah,
because we are not talking about medicine and even in medicine, you could use a little bit of collaboration.
absolutely.
We as humans are communal beings, right?
Mhm.
You are not meant to do this alone. There's nothing wrong with you if you cannot. If you are
Right.
struggling, you
Mhm.
are supposed to have help and
Yeah.
you are supposed to ask for it. People
Yeah.
cannot read your mind. And do you really want them to? I don't think so. I don't want anybody reading my
I hope I right.
right? So ask for what you need, ask
Yeah.
for what you want. You can ask for things that you do not need. You are worth it. I just want a break. That is
Mhm.
good enough. You do
Absolutely.
not need a reason. You can
Correct.
just ask for it.
Absolutely. I love that. Asking is it's the thing. It's the stuff
Yes.
that communities are made of. And I want us to
Yes.
even reemphasize something that you said earlier. Building, cultivating that community begins as soon as that baby comes out. Actually, before. I'm going to tell
Yes.
you, I started looking up mom groups when I was still pregnant
Mhm.
with my son. I was,
Yeah.
but and admittedly, like I feel like I started a little bit later. Most of my friends
Mhm.
like had kids that were like getting ready to graduate from high school. By the time
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
started 39. And so I was excited to become part of the mom community. So I
Yeah.
started looking up mom groups
Mhm.
and when my son finally he stayed home for the first year of his
Mhm.
life, because, I had the privilege of my mom coming to live with me and do that. But when he started to go to daycare, I would, like, look at, "Okay, who's he playing with? What
Yeah.
moms can I connect with?" And I have made some amazing friendships, and even as
Yeah.
he's gone to school, I've connected with, like, "Oh, my son plays with your daughter," or, "My son plays with your son. How would you like a play date?" And
Yeah.
that's as early as out the wound or even before, you can start to make those connections and
Yeah.
make those requests. Like, oh, I know that when I have my person, I'm going to need some help. Would you be willing to be a part of my village, my community,
Yeah.
and especially those people you trust, right?
Yes. And it may feel weird, especially if it's not your personality,
Hmm.
to reach out that way because it is
Hmm.
definitely not mine.
Same,
But
same.
it's the word of the day is intention.
Yeah,
You have to do it because it is very easy to feel alone,
yeah.
and you don't have to feel that way.
It is, and it's worth it. And I'll tell you, it
Yeah.
was having suffered from postpartum depression,
Mm.
how I made it through is through from another mom or two reaching out to
Yeah.
me every single day. "How are
Yeah.
you? Is there anything I
Yeah.
can do for you? Can I bring you some food? What do you need?" Until
Yeah.
my mom was able to move in and with me, right?
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
day. "How is your mental health?" You know, if you need to talk. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that.
And that's something that came up over the weekend. I traveled to Pennsylvania for
Mhm,
Black Maternal Health Week,
mhm.
and well, at the time of this recording,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
spoke at an event and was talking about postpartum mental health because I
yeah.
talk about postpartum all the
Mhm,
time, and
mhm.
was telling people about support groups and the importance of support groups. And somebody, she just couldn't understand how it would help. So I'm glad that you shared that because community is what we need. Like I said, as humans, we are communal beings,
Mhm.
and being in a group of people that know what you are going through, that are going through the same things, that are ahead of you, they're
Mhm.
working their way out of it.
Mhm.
So moms with older kids,
Mhm.
people who have been through postpartum depression before,
Mhm.
it gives you hope. There's like a
Yeah.
light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
So it is a very good way to help yourself, even if you don't have postpartum depression
Mhm.
or anxiety or anything like that,
Right.
just in this time to be in a group of like minded people that know what it means to be a mother, a
Mhm.
professional working mom, a physician mom.
Mhm.
Finding your community is just so helpful. And it is my message to everyone
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. Woo! I love this conversation so much. I'm like, I can keep going and going and going, and I want to honor your time.
Yeah.
But this is a juicy conversation. I'm thinking about, ooh, what can I have you come back and do
Yes.
with me?
Let me
You know, the thing
Yes.
that comes up for me, and I'm sure you can weigh you have plenty to weigh in on this is the fourth
Mhm,
trimester.
mhm.
It's
Yeah,
something that was like sort of like brewing as you were talking about as we were talking about postpartum depression and the
yeah,
impact that that fourth trimester has on that and how you help moms through that fourth trimester. So yeah, I think we have a part 2 to do for sure.
yes. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yes.
Yeah, so the fourth trimester is a big deal, and I'll just give you my little plug here. Postpartum lasts for 1 year. So while the fourth trimester is important, the whole year after birth is important, especially for mental health. So I
Yes.
will leave you with that.
Okay. Cliffhanger. You done it now. You just done it now. So we are definitely having a part 2. We are definitely having a
Yes,
part 2. I'll send you my link. We're gonna schedule this
yes.
again for sure. Well, Dr. Latoya, I love this conversation. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I really do like well-being, especially with moms, especially physician moms. I don't know if you know this or not, but I had a business, the Stress Free Mom MD. So I used to
Mhm.
be the Stress Free Mom MD. So I used to
Oh,
do this work a lot and so like now I'm in the organizations
right.
in the as my mentor once used to say, in the belly of the beast, really make it better for the physicians who are in these
Mhm.
situations, right? And particularly for our women in our marginalized communities. So that's the work that I do now. But I this is a huge love of mine, talking about supporting moms in medicine and just like that well-being. So I
Yeah.
appreciate I wanted to I meant
Mhm.
to say this at the very beginning is I'm very much honoring what you do. I appreciate it because it is so needed, so needed. So thank you. And thank you for coming on today. I want the listeners to know how they follow you, how they reach you,
Yes.
how they connect with you if they want to work with you, how they invite you to speak at their organization.
Definitely. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This was a very fun conversation. And it's so good to speak to somebody who is like minded
Mhm.
and, just to get the message out there because, like you said, the conditioning is deep and real.
Mhm.
So this was fun. And I can't wait to come back.